Community Viewpoint.
And welcome to another edition of Community Viewpoint. I'm John Pawlak, your host for this segment of Community Viewpoint, and I'm honored today to have with me an author and a distinguished author, Michael Voegele, the former chief scientist for Yucca Mountain. And I had the honor some years ago to work on the project when he was there as the chief scientist. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Voegele to you at this moment to talk to us about this 2-volume set that you co-authored about
Right,
Yucca
John.
Mountain.
John, it's a book that covers the technical history of the high-level waste program with a focus on Yucca Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at the state of the project as the Department of Energy shut it down, and there's very little material available to people to be able to understand what the program was, why, what we were doing, why we did it, and how we got there. So Don Veith and I decided that we would just sit down and try to document as much as we could of that history. Our goal for the book was that it would be factual, supported by as much reference material as we could find, that it would be objective. It's not political. We tried as much to cover the negative aspects of what people said about the mountain as we did the positive aspects about the science. So as it's been noted, this is a book that we gave to the Pahrump Valley Museum. Some of you may have been over to the Pahrump Valley Museum and seen the Yucca Mountain exhibits that are at the Pahrump Valley Museum.
Yes, I'm well aware of that.
We wanted to endow some funds to make sure that those museum exhibits could stay viable for a while. So that's the first edition of the book was given to the museum. Those of you who know Bob McCracken, Bob was very instrumental in talking me into writing the book, and he helped me publish it. We published it ourselves.
Oh, Bob did? Okay.
Yeah, Bob was.
You'll see a lot of his writing through the years here in Pahrump, either at the library with the books that he's written, or
Right.
in the Pahrump Valley Times.
Right. No, he has a column in the Pahrump Valley Times.
Yes.
And, he does write quite a bit about Yucca Mountain. In fact, he's also an authority on Southern Nye County history. So yeah, it was. Bob was the person who pushed me in the direction of writing the book. Just to briefly, when we moved the old Department of Energy Science Center over into the museum, the county commissioners did that. They gave Bob some money to do some interviews of Yucca Mountain project people for the Nye County.
Oh, I remember that.
Project.
Yeah.
And I helped Bob identify people who we might want to interview. And one day, Bob and I were talking, and we realized we didn't have an interview that covered everything from the beginnings, which is in the late 1930s in Europe, up until what happened to the program today. So I volunteered to do that. And getting ready to talk to Bob, and it turns out he has 22 hours of me talking about the project. I prepared a 65-page set of notes, outline form of what I wanted to make sure I covered. And every time I talked to Bob, he said, "You should write a book." And I kept looking at these notes and said, "Well, I've got the table of contents for the book." So we started in 2010, 2011, and it took us the better part of 5 years to write this book.
Right, it's a 2-volume set.
It is.
And from what I saw from an article by Selwyn Harris from the Pahrump Valley Times, this will be a history of Yucca Mountain geared towards congressional staffers. It'll be like a Wikipedia or a dictionary or encyclopedia on waste.
Not Wikipedia, because Wikipedia, you could get in there and change it. If
That's
you wanted
right,
to.
yeah.
As I said, we tried to make this as factual and supported by references as we possibly could. But you're correct, that was my target audience. There are very strong indications that within the House Energy and Commerce Committee, there's a lot of movement to try to bring the Yucca Mountain project at least to complete the hearings. And those of you who follow Nye County Commissioners' position on this, I mean, the commissioners have never said, "We love Yucca Mountain." They've said, the law says it's going to be here.
Right.
And if it's going to be here, it better be safe. And we want to have mitigation and benefits for it, for the county, jobs, water, land, the things that the county commissioner are looking for. And if there are people in Washington who are going to be working on legislation or bringing back the project, they weren't born when we did this. You know, it's the staffers who do things.
Right.
They weren't born when we did this in the late 70s and early 80s. And so that's my target audience. And it's been very well received by the congressional staffers because it is a wealth of information.
Now, prior to me moving out here, 1999, I lived in where all this basically started in Lamont, Illinois, by Argonne National Laboratories.
Right.
I would go and look in our local library for the pre-EIS. And the librarian there knew me so well. They said, I asked, can I take that home? He says, you're not supposed to, but you're the only one that really reads this. He says, take it home. So I studied that very well before I came out here, because that was one of my biggest issues. Would it be safe if I came out here to live? Well, here I am.
Yeah.
And this is a 2-volume set. Was there 2 of them at the museum? I thought I saw 2. Maybe it was just the 2 books. That's what it was. But
No, there are 2 volumes.
There wasn't 2 sets over there.
There's a number of sets over there.
Okay.
I mean, the museum is selling them.
Okay.
Right.
So you can go over there and look at the books, and if you would like to buy them, they're there for purchase. So
The museum is a 501c3 entity, so technically it's tax deductible.
very good. So anything new on the horizon that we should know about? Not until after your election, I imagine.
Well, no, I think that if people have an interest in seeing where the project is today, on July 7th there was a hearing. The House Energy and Commerce Committee's Subcommittee on Energy and the Environment had a hearing, and Commissioner Dan Shinhoffen testified at that hearing. I thought he did a very good job of explaining exactly what I said. You know, Nye County understands that the law says it's going here, and we want to be taken care of. I mean, the number one position, and this goes back to when Joni Easley and Gary Hollis were on the commission, the county commissioners. The whole issue has always been finish the license application so we can make our own judgments if it can be done safely. Now, those of you who followed the project know that Nye County did spend grant money to do its own science. Darrell Lacey's office, there were a number of geologists and hydrologists in Darrell's office, and some of us worked with them as consultants. And our whole issue was the question from the commissioners about, is this going to be safe? And I think the Nye County scientists did an excellent job, and the county should be very proud of it. There is Nye County science in the DOE license application. We had data that they didn't have, and it was of sufficient quality to be accepted by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission staff finished their review of the license application, and they found no technical issues with it. It doesn't mean we're done. There were 2, I like to call them procedural issues, water and land. Okay, the first one is land. I mean, that's easy. We're on government land out there, and believe it or not, it's almost harder for the government to transfer land to itself than it is for a private entity to go through a condemnation process to take over land. So it'll take an act of Congress to get the land transferred to the Department of Energy. And the other one is the water, and they've been in court on lawsuits over that water for years. That lawsuit has stayed right now because the project is in abeyance, but I suspect Congress will have to step in on that. Now, that's just where the staff sits. We're only roughly halfway through the license application process. The staff has written their document. It's called the Safety Evaluation Report, and you can find it on the NRC website. And if you look at that, you can see what the staff thought about our technical work. And as I said, they don't have any technical issues with us, but that doesn't mean that there aren't technical issues potentially available. The process allows for what are called interveners to raise questions.
Yes.
And the state of Nevada has raised quite a number of contentions, they're called, as has Nye County's. The difference is Nye County's contentions are more about ensuring that if this is done, it can be done safely.
Right.
And the state's contentions are arguments that the science is bad. And those will be heard. That's what people are, when you hear the argument to finish the license application, that's what they're saying. They want to see really if the state's arguments are persuasive to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
So this is an ongoing thing with the state of Nevada. I remember that while I was working for the project. When I staffed one of the information
Correct.
centers here, and I welcome people, the naysayers that came in there. I told them, if you can find a way to stop the project, fine. I'll give you all the literature you need. No one's done that, and if you, as the lay people, we have all the information for you.
Let me help you here. I made sure that all the public documents that were issued for public comment are summarized in this document, not just what the documents say, but what the naysayers had to say, what the arguments were against it. I believe that the Department of Energy has shown that those arguments are not persuasive, but that doesn't mean an independent committee of judges, administrative judges, might find some of them persuasive. But in this book, you will find the arguments that have been raised historically
very good.
about why the project is not. People often say it's not safe, and those arguments are in there. I wanted to make sure the book was comprehensive.
It's all encompassing. Yes.
It was intended to be comprehensive. As I said, it is not a pro Yucca Mountain book. You can go in there. You can go in there and find as much against the project as for the project. Mm-hmm. Although we get to chapter 15, I probably got a little bit pro-project, but the book was always intended to be objective.
I remember some of the people that still come back to me today that took tours to Yucca Mountain. They're always positive. We gave a good tour. It was very truthful, and the people were all. I don't see what the hubbub is about.
Well,
but those are the local folks.
There are a couple of points, John. People don't understand risk.
Okay.
They accept risks in their lives that are far more potentially dangerous to them than risks that somebody might impose upon them. That's just that's inbred. We will go out and drive on the highway, and the possibility of being hit by a drunk driver is way higher than a lot of other risks, and we ignore it.
And with that, we have to say goodbye.
Uh-oh.
It's so short.
Let's do another view.
Let's do another view.
Okay.
Thanks.
Community Viewpoint.